Minit is an indie game published by Devolver Digital. Its premise revolves around the 60-second timer that you get every single time you wake up. You go around doing certain tasks and things for NPCs and items, and when those 60 seconds are up, everything resets and you go back to your starting point. It's a very interesting premise, and it's one that many other games have explored already, but Minit is different because you only get 60 seconds. Unlike, let's say, Majora's Mask, in which you get almost an hour to do what you need to do, in Minit you only get a minute. And the developers really have to try to craft their world and the experience around the 60-second timer because it is so short. The way they do this is by giving you shortcuts and different items that you could use to access places quicker, so that you can explore more and more of the world as you do more and more resets and tasks and things. But at least in my opinion, they kind of cheat a little bit because they eventually introduce new starting points, so you can switch your starting point to be closer to your objective on the fly. You just have to get there, and even later in the game you get a thing that teleports you straight to each of the starting points, so take that as you will. Like the premise, the world is excessively simple. Most of the NPCs are one-sided or only have like 2 or even 1 line of dialogue. A lot of them are just there for garnish. There is a few that actually serve a purpose and give you items and stuff, or lead you to places that you need to go to. I think the most helpful ones are the ghosts that you get later in the game. If you go to this house and then walk into the staircase over and over again, you eventually get a prompt saying that this is the right floor, and when you get out, a bunch of these ghosts appear in the world that give you different hints to do stuff. But for most of the NPCs that are not the ghosts, they just kind of sit there and do nothing, or they leave you behind a roadblock, or they give you a hint or something, and most of them are just there for garnish, as I said. But it's not really that much of an issue because the game is excessively short. Unlike the title says, it's not a minute long. It's more would take you like 1 or 2 hours to beat the entire game, at least 100% it, and if you just do a casual playthrough the first time, it should only take you around an hour. Now for the gameplay of Minit, it's also exceptionally simple. You only really get a few actions, which is run and swing your sword. One of them can be to throw your sword, but there are very few things that you can do other than those things. Like, I think you can take a photo if you play it for the first time and not New Game Plus, and if you get the water bucket, you can water things. But that's pretty much it when it comes to actions. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't a lot of items, but most of them are just upgrades or things that you need to progress. For example, the most common collectible that you'll be coming across when you solve puzzles is the coins. They really only served as a roadblock for the shoes, the running shoes, and later on in the game for the last heart container, which you can only get once you explore the entirety of the world and collect all of the coins. Other items include the throwing glove, which, as I said, allows you to throw your sword. The running shoes, which allow you to run slightly faster, and other things like that, such as the flashlight that simply allows you to be able to see in dark places. And I think one of them is even just a lighthouse key, in which you get to be able to get that flashlight. So, as you can gather from that, most of the game's puzzles are also really simple. I think one of them is just to push this dude to a specific place. You basically just play a game of hot and cold. Other puzzles include like item specific stuff, like having to get these flippers so that you can get into a waterfall, which you probably would never think about doing. Other stuff includes having to wait for this old man to finish his spiel so that you know where to go to get some of the items. And one of the most surprising ones is when you have to push this box to a very specific place from coming out of the screen, so that you're able to reach a tentacle that allows you to get the turbo ink at the very end of the game, which simply allows you to swing your sword faster. So it's once you reach that point in the game, it's kind of useless. Talking about useless items, let's talk about the heart containers. You rarely need them, and the only reason to go for them is if you're having a hard time getting past sections, or if you're going for 100%. Other than those two reasons, there's really no reason to go for the heart containers, because you're rarely gonna get into a fight that you'll get hit twice in. The only one I can really think of that would give you a problem is the fight above the hotel, which you have to fight once to get an NPC, and you have to fight thrice to get a coin. The only other one that I think could give you a problem is the bowl, but that's also for a heart container, so you'll basically need a heart container to get a heart container if you're having trouble with the bullfight. I'm pretty sure that what I've said feels like excessively negative, but in reality, I really enjoy the game. The game is very enjoyable in short bursts, and if you're just playing it casually, it gives you a solid hour or two if you don't know where to look. But I guess one of the major problems with it is just that it seems like it takes a lot of shortcuts, which makes sense considering it's a very small team and it's a very small indie game, and the concept is very hard to be able to mold into something, I guess something better, because there's not much you can do in a minute, especially in an open world game that's many people have taken their liberty of comparing to Legend of Zelda, specifically Link's Awakening. So imagine playing Link's Awakening, but every minute you get sent back to the starting town and you have to do everything you just did and just continue off. Like it would be exceptionally hard. So I understand why they made most of the decisions that the team did, but it really doesn't seem to have made that an exceptional game. It's a good game, and it's very fun, and most of the puzzles are really clever. There's a lot that I left out, although some of them are trial and error. But the game is mostly just fine. It's not incredible. It's not decent. It's not a bad game in any terms of the word, but it's not exceptional. And so if you really want the game or are on the fence about it, I really recommend that you wait for a sale or something. I think base price is $10, which for an hour or two of gameplay really doesn't seem like you're getting your money's worth. The only reason I wanted it is because it's surprisingly a very good speedrun game. You can speedrun the game consistently, and if you memorize everything, you can get a pretty good time. I think the game is supposed to be a speedrun game because it even has a timer and a little tally marker that tells you how many runs you have done. So I think it is a game built around speedrunning it, which makes sense as to why all of the puzzles would be very simple, at least the ones you need to beat the game. But if you're playing it normally, or if you just want to play it once, it's not very worth it for the price. So I would recommend you just wait for a sale. So as final thoughts, I don't really have much else to say about Minit other than it's surprisingly good for a concept that feels like it's continuously holding it back. Even though I have a lot of problems with it, it doesn't mean that I despise it or that, it's terrible. The game is just, it's based on a gimmick, and I think that's the thing that really holds it back. It's just that it's very hard to recommend for someone that wants to spend their money wisely, or someone that really cares about the gameplay. It's very simple, and if you're just a casual type of person, sort of like I am, it's a very good game. But if you're someone that's into the more hardcore stuff or something like Dark Souls, this game is probably not for you. But it's an easy recommendation if you're looking for something minute. Also, who else thought it was impossible to find the stupid trophy? Jesus Christ, it took me so long.